All right, people, welcome. Bienvenido a este episode of Vision2Mission. Tenemos, good close friend of mine, amazing entrepreneur, realtor, businessman, family man, Mr. Jonathan de la Cruz. How are you, my friend?
Doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here on this podcast with you, man. I appreciate you having me here to share my story and share my journey.
Absolutely. And for those listening, I encourage you to listen to this entire discussion because Jonathan has a truly unique and amazing story. He is a unique and amazing person, and he is doing unique and amazing things. So let's just hop right into it. And again, any information you want to learn about Jonathan, his initiatives, what he's doing in his professional career and everything will be all in the show notes for sure. So let's just kind of hop right in. You are, you got to have your hand in a lot of different, pots. You're doing some different things in the community. So you're based out of Maryland, right? You're here in the DMV. And let's just kind of dive right in. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is this. You're a realtor. We're going to kind of be on that stage for a little bit. What originally got you into real estate?
So what originally got me into real estate, I remember being around 18 years old, and I read a book called Think and Grow Rich.
Yes.
You ever read
Napoleon Hill. Yes.
Yeah, Napoleon Hill. So I read Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, which first planted the seed in my mind about the power of the mind and how, with hard work, with a burning desire, and an action plan, anything is possible. So I would say that was the first start of my journey to get that kind of entrepreneurial spirit in me. I didn't know exactly that I wanted to do real estate at that time just yet, but I know I wanted to do something. I know I was destined for something great, and just didn't really know the blueprint yet. Mm-hmm. So fast forward to around 19 years old, I started working at Comcast. And I was a Comcast tech, and I would always binge watch these Flip This House shows. I don't know if you know. So right. I'd binge watch those, and then the late night infomercials would come on. Dean Graziosi, I bought his book How to Be a Real Estate Millionaire, and then with the influence of my mother too, who was at the time working at a brokerage. That kind of is what got me, started and, wanting to pursue real estate. So right. I did that. I read those books, and then I wanted to be an investor. So it wasn't really my intention to be a real estate agent. The whole thing, I'm seeing all these guys on Flip This House making all this money. And, I started thinking you need money, you need to get a good credit, you need to get a loan. I was trying to put the pieces together. And then I'm a very resourceful guy, so I use Google a lot. And I went to Google, and I just started researching information, and I came across an ebook. The ebook was by Preston Ely, and the ebook was on wholesaling. So that's when I came across the concept of wholesaling. So now I'm 20 years old, about to be 21. And now I'm not working at Comcast. I'm working at a property management company, leasing apartments. So there at that company, in that position, I was getting experience with sales, speaking on the phone, just managing the sales process in terms of getting tenants in and application process and the follow up and all of that. But at the same time, I was also just going through this information, this ebook, and that's when I decided, well, this is how I'm going to get started. So fast forward to 2009, January of 2009, that's when I decided to get my real estate license, and I went ahead and started taking the course in January 2009. So my schedule was full. I'd work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and then on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'd be at the boxing gym. I used to work right by the boxing gym in Palmer Park. So I go straight to the boxing gym after work. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, I was taking the real estate course in Greenbelt. So my week was full. I finished up the course, and passed the course. Everything good to go. So now I was ready for my PSI exam. And on a Monday, I went home to study for my PSI exam, which I had scheduled on a Tuesday. And that evening, I ended up getting shot during a home invasion. So I got shot during a home invasion, which left me paralyzed from my chest down. And I put real estate on the back burner for a whole, you see, that happened in 2009. I put it on the back burner for a whole year. So I still pursued my license a year later. And I actually passed the first part on my first try. I didn't have to restudy or anything. The national portion of the test, I passed it. The state test, I had to take it twice. So I ended up getting my license in 2010. But in the meantime, from the time I got out the hospital to the time I got my real estate license, I was also attending conferences and going to RIA meetings. So those are the Real Estate Investors Association meetings. And that's how I got started networking with investors and kind of just getting my foot in the door in the investment world, right? And when I first got out the hospital, I wasn't driving yet, so I'd take the Metro Access vans to these conferences. I remember maxing out a couple credit cards to buy courses, and I was all in. I was going to these night out meetings that they called them in Georgetown to just network and just try to get as much information as I could. And then at the end of 2010, at a conference, I met a mentor of mine, which he took me under his wing, and that's how I ended up doing my first deal. I did my first deal in 2011.
And that's fantastic. And so listen, man,
that was a long-winded answer, but
that was the perfect answer. That was the perfect answer. And so, God bless you by keeping you alive. We're not going to go into too many of those details, but what was it like for you just mentally, right? Just going from normal everyday life, and then you have this unfortunate incident to now, being paralyzed, and everything physically changes, or a lot, should I say, physically changes. Yeah. But how did you in the beginning deal with the mental challenge?
Well, in the beginning it was tough because it was literally in an instant, everything changed. I was literally at my desk in my bedroom studying, had my book open, had my laptop open, watching a webinar. I used to watch a lot of webinars too. So I was watching a webinar. I had just turned 21. So this happened on February. I just turned 21 in December. So 2 months, after my birthday, everything happened in an instant, man. I was literally at my desk studying, and then a couple minutes later, I find myself shot, now almost dead. But the dude shot me once, and then he put the gun to my head and tried to pull the trigger again and shoot me in the head, but the gun jammed. So I was laying there and just trying to process the whole thing. And I immediately knew I was paralyzed because I felt my body. I couldn't move it no more. And I felt like a shocking sensation. Oh, God. And it was tough, man. I was in ICU for a month, and then I was in rehab therapy for another month, and just it felt like a freaking nightmare. It literally felt like a nightmare. Everything that I once did, the boxing. I used to dance a lot too. I was pretty active. Couldn't no longer do. So it took a while for me to really get out of that dark place. A lot of depression in the beginning. And I think the biggest thing I'd have to say is the support of my mother. My mother was living in Miami when it happened. Okay. And the next day she was here. The following day she was here. So
right.
And she's never expected anything less of myself due to my situation. So I have to say, she's given me a lot of strength as well. And then also I'd also have to attribute boxing for my mental fortitude, because I feel like, I grew up in the sport. My father was a pro boxer, and okay. I've been around it my whole life. So I've been in the ring with a lot of, as a 15-year-old, I used to be in there with grown men, 30-year-olds, 28-year-olds, and used to just having to learn how to bite down on the mouthpiece and just dig deep and keep going, and have that, that fighter in me. So that's always been in me. And I think I attribute a lot of my mental strength to boxing as well. I try to translate boxing to the real life. There's a lot of lessons that it could teach. So I mean, and then just keep going. I mean, and then in terms of business, having to approach business totally from a different perspective. You know, in the beginning, I had doubts like how the heck am I going to sell real estate from a wheelchair, or how I'm going to see houses and stuff like that. So I took a different approach from day one, which was to work with other people and build a team and teach people. So I'd be the one receiving and getting all the knowledge, and then I'm getting my friends like, hey, let's make these calls, or let's go put these signs out, or hey, go check out this property. So, I approached business from that way since day one. Maybe didn't structure it the best way. I was giving away a lot of money, but along the way, I've also been able to empower and teach and help people along the way to how to use real estate as a vehicle to change their life.
No, absolutely. And I think you and I have something in common in terms of my mom was she was an amateur boxing judge up in Baltimore for like 15 years, for a long time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I grew up watching a lot of boxing, like a lot.
Okay.
And whether it was on TV or going to like the amateur bouts, and stuff like that. So, like it's kind of still with me today. Like I watch probably more MMA today, but like having kind of being in that household with regards to talking boxing with my mom, looking at boxing with my mom, going when she was literally a judge. I was like, this is insane. It gave me a lot of knowledge of the sport. Was I ever in the ring? Nope. Didn't have to knuckle up. Now, look, I'm from Baltimore. And I went to Catholic school. So sometimes I did have to walk home, and sometimes I did have to knuckle up because I got to make it home. So that was just real. But, there was definitely growing up a love of the sport, an appreciation and a respect for the sport, So I can definitely understand where you're coming from, as far as that's concerned.
For sure. It takes a lot of discipline and dedication.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I mean, you got to, for men and women that box, you have to be like in amazing shape. And I think one of the earliest things that I learned is like, it's not just all about like that upper body strength, but it's lower body, it's mental, it's strategic, right? It's about your trainer, it's about your coach, it's about your nutrition. It's so much, right? And it's like one of those few rare sports where it's one-on-one, and you're in there.
You can't blame a teammate because he didn't catch the ball or he fumbled or something. Like it's just you and the other man in the ring.
Yeah, and that's it, and so there's a pure rawness, kind of about that I think a gladiator type of deal that a lot of people, really, appreciate. But I want to go back a little bit. So you became, you started kind of studying and kind of getting into the real estate game right around when the crash happened, kind of that 2007 to 2010, type of time frame. So was that something that affected you, or were you more like, look, I just want to kind of get into it, period, and not really as worried or affected by what was going on?
No, I wasn't really worried because at that time, a lot of short sales were prevalent and a lot of REOs were prevalent, right? So I was able to take advantage of the market at that time. And my first bunch of the first few deals, not even few, like a lot of the deals that I did like that first year were short sales. So I was flipping short sales. I was wholesaling short sales, and I was wholesaling some REOs. So it did help. And then the fact that I had my real estate license, I didn't have any money for marketing, but I had my real estate license. And then there were a ton of short sales on the market listed. So I was just making offers on listed short sales and getting them under contract. And then I had my partners and we were closing on that way.
Right.
So I came in at the time of the market where deals were a plethora of deals on the market. There was a ton of deals.
No, there were a ton of deals back then.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember one of the first deals I did was was in Palmer Park, and I had got it under contract for like $35,000. Today, those same houses as is are going for like 120. The same house.
Wow.
So just so you can see like where that market was back then and where it is now. It's just crazy.
No, absolutely. And so, what was I going to say to you? For those who don't understand what wholesaling is, can you kind of just give a basic explanation of what wholesaling is?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So wholesaling is when you get a property under contract. So once you have it under contract, you have an equitable interest, and contract, as long as it's structured the right way, it's an assign. It gives you the right to assign the contract. There's an assignability clause in the contract, and that means that you could assign the contract over to another person, another entity, and then charge a fee for that contract, basically, and then you get paid at closing. So it's kind of like a middleman. You know, you're middlemaning the deal. You're selling your equitable interest to the property and via an assignment of contract. And I work with cash buyers or investors that are using hard money. And yeah, I mean, I built my business based off of that. And then along the way, I also did, regular agent transactions. Doing the wholesaling, what I've been able to do also is, since I'm finding the deal and sourcing the deal, and once I wholesale it over to the investor, then I can, being a licensed agent, I could get the deal back once it's fully renovated and then listed on the market. So I'm making money on both ends. On the front end as a wholesaler, finding the property, then on the back end as an agent, selling the deal once it's renovated.
No, that's fantastic. And so what would you say, just, let's say what are some of the lessons you've learned, should I say, from your first few years of being in the industry over the last, let's say from COVID on through the present? What have been some of the lessons you've learned individually, professionally?
Biggest lessons I've learned in this business, because I have these spurts of growth, and then it's like, So the biggest thing is just staying consistent.
Right.
That's the biggest thing I'd say in life and in business. And if you expect to see any kind of result or any kind of success, it's consistency. Put in the work, even when maybe you have a couple of days and you're just getting a bunch of no's on the phone, and people telling you to go to hell, and sellers are not, or the owners are not wanting to sell, and just staying consistent, because real estate is an emotional business, especially when you're dealing with the buyers and sellers. It's an emotional thing. It's an emotional process for the seller. It could go right one way one time, and then boom, go left, and then the whole deal's falling. So just staying consistent. That's the biggest lesson I'd say. And then also building a solid team. Yes. Without a team, I'd say I wouldn't have been able to, really do anything, because I've been reliant on having people around me to execute the vision. So just having a solid team and good people around you, I think it's important as well.
I couldn't agree with you more.
The mental
it's funny.
Keep going. I mean, you understand you're in the business too, so you know how sometimes you get frustrated.
Right, you do. And I was just thinking, funny as it is, yesterday, because at least once or twice a week, I belong to LA Fitness. And once or twice a week, I get in there early in the morning around 5:36, and I box. I love it. And I was in there yesterday, and I was literally thinking, I was imagining myself kind of giving a speech, but I was sharing specifically about, 2 or 3 or 4 people over the past few years who've left my team and what I learned from them. And I know it's kind of weird to even share that, but it's like, when someone comes on your team, you learn, wow, like how much more you can get done and what those skills and abilities and talents are that they bring to the table. But when someone leaves your team, right, you realize, okay, I've got to, you got to knuckle up. Like you have to kind of fill that gap. But also you realize, what could I have done better? How could I have been different? Could this have been avoided? And again, trying to see things from a larger perspective. You know what? At the end of the day, it's going to be fine. It's all good. It's meant to happen, and such. But I think that if I'm looking back, I hired my first employee in the summer of 2018. And we, between 2018 and coming into 2020, we grew just from me to about 12 or 13 of us. And, that was definitely a blessing. But then now there's been some loss. I've had a couple of people resign. I've had some people just being inactive. I've had to let go of one or two people. And it's been a lesson, on how do you build a strong, effective team. And, I've learned in my character.
It takes a lot of leadership, and vision.
Say again?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Say that again?
I said, no, it takes a lot of leadership and a lot of leadership and a lot of vision.
No, it does. And you have to be able to project that vision so that people can grab onto it as well, because not everybody believes in the same stuff that you believe in, but you want to kind of be on the same page, as far as that's concerned, for sure. So, I know that you're very active in the community, but I want to kind of just go back to kind of talk about the community and the things that you're doing to affect the community. Anton, if you could bring up the article. There's an article that I looked at. As weird as it is, it's from the CDC, but it's about firearm mortality by state. Okay. And no, let's do stats by state first. And it's weird on here because it didn't have DC. That's why I did the DC article separate. But, this was for the year of 2020 that I looked this up. And basically, when you see this, scroll down. And scroll down to M for Maryland. So when you look at Maryland, Maryland in 2020, had 803 mortalities with regards to firearms. So that ends up being about 2 per day, which was like insane. And then you go down, if you scroll down and you look at Virginia, I was like, I literally thought, all right, well, Virginia's not going to have as much because it's Virginia. Virginia was at 1,174. It's like, what? And again, that ends up being about 3 per day, but it doesn't show the District of Columbia anywhere on here. So I looked up some different stats, and we're going to talk about why I looked this stuff up in a minute. But if Anton, if you could bring up the district crime data that I'm also looking at right now, we can look at the 2021 year end on here. So let me know when you got that up on the screen. Yeah, scroll down. Yep. All right, cool. Yeah, scroll down to where it says 2021 year-end crime data right there. Exactly. If you look at it, so in at the end of the year in 2020 in violent crime, right, and you see everything that's in there: homicide, sex abuse, assault with a dangerous weapon, robbery. 2020, it was 4,004 events. And then in 2021, it went up by 100, to 4,117. And then you have different types of things like burglary, auto theft, this and the other. Sharing this stuff because there's a lot that goes on in the community where a lot of this stuff is, and again, I didn't even bring up stuff specifically for Baltimore, but, a lot of this stuff is perpetrated by, in my opinion, by a lot of youth who unfortunately are completely misguided, are coming from homes where there's maybe a single parent, and they're just not given the proper direction. Now, I'm not making excuses, but there's a lot that's going on. And unfortunately, it ends up hurting a lot of innocent people, right? And you end up having in those situations like you had over a decade ago in your life. So, this leads me, with regards to the new initiative that you've begun and how you're looking to affect the community, the Thumpyard. So if you can go ahead and just share and give us some detail on what that is and why you created it.
Yeah, so the Thumpyard. So as I've already touched, was heavily involved in boxing throughout my whole life, and that was taken from me the day I got shot, paralyzed. And I wasn't really into boxing. I wasn't, I kind of got away from it. Wasn't training or anything. Thought I couldn't train anymore. And then spring of 2021, in the middle of the pandemic, we thought of a way to engage the community via like kind of like a backyard boxing kind of thing, like an open platform for young adults to just we come together as a community and we put on the gloves. So the first one started, just kind of like a pilot, just to test and see. We had a few people come out and we did 4 matches, right? We did 4 matches, and it went from 4 matches to the following week it was 8 matches, and then it was 15 matches, and then so our strategy for growth and to blow this thing up was to do it every 2 weeks. So every other week we will meet on Sundays and we will make it an event. We'd have a DJ, and it started to grow like wildfire. We created a YouTube channel, and from our first event we were literally in the dirt, like in some gravel, and then it went from that to like we made a makeshift ring, to then like we ended up buying a ring, and so it grew exponentially. But the whole purpose of these events though was, boxing is an exciting thing, especially the backyard style boxing is kind of gritty. You're getting people from all over the DMV coming through. But I wanted to take advantage of those events and really hammer down the message about putting down the guns, putting up the gloves, and make it an impactful event. So we take advantage while we have everyone there. I'd always have someone from the community, someone who's been impacted by gun violence, and whoever want to share their testimony and their story of how they changed. This is actually a sanctioned event that we did. So we transitioned to doing sanctioned events from our original backyard events.
That's awesome, dude.
So we've been engaging the community through boxing, and I think, like I said, boxing for me, it translates into everyday life, the lessons that you learn, and the confidence that it builds, the hard work, the dedication, the discipline that it instills in these fighters. It really translates into real life. And what was happening was these people that were participating at our events before we started doing the sanctioned events, we did a total of about 16 like the backyard events. We did about 16 backyard events, and what was happening is, since we were doing it every 2 weeks, it was creating like a culture of people that were out now wanting to train, and they were looking forward to the next 2 weeks, or maybe someone will come and get their butt kicked, and then it shows them they're not as tough as maybe they thought they were, so now they want to go train, and maybe they want to stop smoking or whatever it is. But it started inspiring people to create change in their own life. But also what we take advantage at these events is to also touch on like financial literacy topics, on entrepreneurship, because to me, gun violence, like you said, it's maybe there's an absent father in the house. A lot of times that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's no direction. They maybe feel like there's no other way. Like a lot of it has to do with money, right? So boxing may teach like the life skills, the dedication, the self-confidence, the discipline, but at the same time, it's not teaching the kids the money aspect and how to generate money and, real estate or, so we kind of want to fuse. My vision was to fuse all of this together and make sure we touch on those topics, because it's like a holistic approach to the gun violence. Because, they could be boxing. I know people that used to train and used to box, and they were selling drugs out of their boxing gloves. So, it has to be a whole like approach. So it's the boxing, it's the financial literacy, it's the entrepreneurship. It's just showing these young kids that there's a better way. And that's the bigger vision. And the bigger vision and the purpose for this is to ultimately operate as a nonprofit and open up our own center where we can have a gym, where we can also have a space where we could, do some classes, resume writing, just prepare these young adults and these young kids for the real world life and give them skills that they could use in the real world.
Dude, that's amazing. And that's real vision right there, because it's not just having a boxing gym is great, because again, it does, get kids away from doing activities that will be harmful to themselves and to others. But John, you really hit on something that is near and dear to my heart. And I think it's such a need for our community, right? You mentioned resume writing, like how often do we hear about resume writing? You know what I'm saying? Like, much respect there. And in terms of the entrepreneurship, the responsibility, the discipline.
Event that will be providing next term. Yeah.
Say that again.
We have a nonprofit we have a nonprofit that'll be providing that the resume writing at our next event.
Right.
Free of charge.
And here's the thing, like no one's doing this, absolutely. And you're out there making it happen.
And it's been such a blessing because we were actually featured on Channel 9 News 2 times. We were featured on Univision, the Latino news station, 2 times as well. There was a full-length documentary as well that was done, and we featured it and put it in the movie theater. We premiered it in the movie theater. So
did you just say bootleg documentary?
It's been great. No, I said feature-length documentary that was featured in the documentary.
Right.
Yeah, in the movie theater. So it was really well done, really well produced, and the sky's the limit.
Yes.
After we only did 1 sanction event, so your mother was a judge, and she was in that circuit, right? So we did our first sanction event here with PVA. You know how the USA Boxing, then you have the local boxing committees and stuff like that.
Yep.
So the local boxing committee here for DC, Montgomery County, and Prince George's County is the Potomac Valley Boxing Association. We did our first event in August, and it was a hit. It was a success. They all loved it. I think we're bringing a different vibe, a different crowd to these amateur boxing events, and we're just going to keep growing and keep pushing it. Our strategy and the growth is also the visuals. We have a good, strong media team that provides us some great highlights after the show, and we're able to capture the event. Like we did a YouTube live stream at our last event where we were switching up the angles and stuff. So, and what we always want to do, and our goal is to always improve. From my last event, always find something to improve. So it's like, if you look at our very first event to now, like there's something that we've improved every single event.
Absolutely. And that's what it should be about, that constant, improvement. I think with anything, especially like in the real estate field, being an entrepreneur, like we want to put out quality content, but every time we do it, we want it to get better and better, and better, for sure. So, what are some of the business lessons that you've learned, right? Because you have the kind of the real estate, experience, of course, but now starting this new venture, because it is a venture, but also you're kind of getting deep into the community and you're addressing some sorely needed areas. But what are some of the business lessons that you've learned so far?
So I'm definitely getting better at event organizing. Just kind of like delegating, getting better at the delegation part of it.
Yep.
Putting these events together is it's a lot involved. A lot of moving parts. In terms of the community, though, one thing that I did learn doing these events, because I have a small circle, right? I have a small circle of friends. I wasn't really getting out like that prior to these events. Then I started getting back in the community and meeting these new people and, all these people that appreciating me for creating the Thumpyard. It's just really seeing the need for something like this. Like there's a real need for this movement. There's a real need for this movement, and just seeing and meeting these kids that are really lost. Like they're lost. A lot of them are lost. They don't have any direction. They don't have any resources on so it's just being able to kind of fill that void has been really fulfilling. I know I've been doing real estate all these years, but to be honest, this has been more fulfilling in my heart because I feel like I've been able to reach and impact more people. But at the same time, I'm able to fuse what I've learned in my experience in real estate and bring it to this now too. I always thought, so my mentor that taught me this business, the real estate wholesaling, he, you know, he started including me in the seminars and speaking and like, you know, because I guess, you know, I'm in a wheelchair and I'm doing deals and, you know, inspiration and this and that. And I always thought it was going to be through that I was going to be able to really impact people. But it's been through the Thumpyard. I've had more impact and more influence with what I'm currently doing now. Like I've been able, you know, like I said, the news channel picked this up. The local city council member, she's supporting us, and she's one of our sponsors for our next event. And
fantastic.
And now I'm able to build this brand and to get on a national level, like, you know. And then what I could do now is, my vision is, since I'm using that as a platform, now I could couple it with the real estate. Like now I can include real estate in what I'm doing, because this is what's getting the eyeballs. This was getting the attention. So now I can kind of piggyback off of that and include these other ideas, like the financial literacy part, the real estate, and just make it like a whole program, you know, like a whole program where we could touch on different things. So and I'm just gonna keep going, man. You know, I'm not gonna stop. Not gonna stop. You know,
That's right.
I have a son now too, so you know, he loves boxing, and now I'm a little bit more involved on the amateur boxing scene to see how that works, the tournaments and this and that. So it's fun, man. It's fun, and I enjoy the sport. It's one of my passions. So it's just been a real big blessing to be able to do this, and also, you know, change lives along the way.
No, absolutely. And so let me just ask you this: have you found that and you may or may not be, is there more of a focus on like the Latino community or like a minority communities, or are you just kind of opening it up to everybody?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's open up to everybody. We've had anybody and everyone participate at the events, but where you see a lot of the need is going to be in our minority communities. You know, where we have those absent fathers and those broken homes, and it's that's where the biggest need is. You know, the gun violence is happening more in our communities as well.
Right.
So, you know, that I think those are the individuals that need to hear the message. But it's across the board. I mean, it's for anyone and everyone. In terms of like real estate, that's anyone can get involved in real estate. But in terms of the having an impact on reducing the gun violence, unfortunately, it's our minorities, our Black and brown brothers and sisters, that's being impacted the most.
Yeah, you know, and I tell you, man, well, God willing, you know, things like the Thumpyard will really give people an alternative, you know. And like you said, there's a lot of young men and women out there that are lost, and they need to find their way. They need to find like a passion in life, like something they really want to pursue, right? Because if they don't pursue something, something's going to pursue them. You know what I'm saying?
So I'll give you an interesting story. So with the Thumpyard, I ended up getting a direct message one time, and then the kid is like, "Hey, you should put people in wheelchairs in the ring." And I asked him, like, "Why do you ask that?" So this young man, he ended up telling me that he had been recently shot and paralyzed as well.
Wow.
Maybe about 3 months or 4 months prior to him messaging me. So it was recent, something very recent to him. So I ended up, and he had no idea that I was in my situation. No idea.
Right.
It's just a thing of God that put us together. So
I
met him, and I was able to mentor him, and actually I taught him real estate. You know, I got him like helping me out, making phone calls and stuff like that, and I got him to close his first deal in his neighborhood. We went around his neighborhood, we found some houses, and we closed the deal. So it's like that's like the perfect example of what I want this to become, right? Like I want more people that have come through the Thumpyard, maybe get involved, and we close some more deals. So I'm working with a few of them. I created like a real estate wholesaling quick start guide that I give away for free to them. But like that's just one example of someone who came through the Thumpyard who also was in my same situation that I've been able to mentor. in terms of like just how to deal with this situation mentally and just get around. He also has a daughter that was just born like a few months after he got shot.
Wow.
So, he's also a father, right? He was shot in Virginia by a 17-year-old.
It's a
when
shame.
I got shot, I was 21. I got shot. The kid was like 18 or 19 years old. So it was a lot of these younger kids that are doing these shootings, And just recently, maybe about 3 years ago, I recently lost my cousin that was shot in the head here in Belgium.
God.
So, it's something that's dear to my heart. I want to see some change. I feel like I have created some change with the people that's been able to see and hear the message. And, our motto and our slogan is we thump for a cause. And the cause is to put the guns down and the gloves up. So
I love it.
It's been a great journey, man, and I can't wait to see where it's going to be headed. And once we're officially a nonprofit, I think that's going to open up a lot of doors.
Absolutely. Well, let me tell you, brother. I mean, your personal story is inspiring and it's convicting, and what you're doing, like you're on the ground right now doing it. Like you're out there helping, young men, young women, to give them something that will help to change your life, and just want to kind of just show you love and respect for that, man, because it's something different. Right. But you're also helping to equip them for life, and equip them so that they can elevate themselves and also help, people around them. So as we begin to kind of finish off here, anything final you want to share with regards to what you're doing with the Thumpyard, any future initiatives and, things where people can get involved?
No, I mean, no, just, follow the page, follow on the Instagram, the Thumpyard, THETHUMPYARD. Follow the YouTube page. Just keep watching the growth of the movement, and just stay tuned. We got a lot of things planned, a lot of big things that we want to do, and we're going to continue to grow and continue to push the message.
All right. Well, I definitely appreciate that. So people, this has been Mr. Jonathan De La Cruz of the Thumpyard, entrepreneur, mentor, businessman, family man. Thank you so much for your time, Jonathan. Look forward to collaborating together on a lot of stuff so that we can touch as many people's lives as possible, man.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's been my pleasure for sure. So people, this has been this episode of the Vision2Mission podcast with Mr. Jonathan De La Cruz. Love you all. Take care. God bless and be safe.